Wounded men arrive at once. Orders overlap. Blood loss is visible. Anna Keller, 24, field nurse, has a torn sleeve, shaking hands, shallow breathing, and is cutting fabric with scissors while moving between bodies and giving short commands to those still conscious, so they keep pressure and stay awake as she works without pause. Her grip tightens as another body is pushed forward, and she shifts her weight, leans down, checks a pulse with 2 fingers, cuts again, tells the man under her hands to hold still while she presses hard, feels resistance in the cloth, forces the blades through, exposes the injury, applies pressure, then moves her knee to block another collapse. A stretcher strikes her leg and she stumbles forward but keeps cutting. She tells the bearer to lift higher while her free hand clamps a wound. She adjusts her stance, pulls fabric aside, ties it off using what she just removed, listens to a weak response. Nods once, then drags herself 1 step to the next, body already losing strength. A man grabs her wrist and she shakes him off without stopping, tells him to let go and breathe now while her scissors snap shut again. She slices fast, reuses the strip she made seconds earlier, binds it tight, checks the result, sees bleeding slow, pushes him back, and signals for him to be moved as she pivots immediately. Her fingers cramp, but she does not stop. Another uniform resists the cut and she changes angle, applies force, finishes the tear, speaks close to the man's face telling him to stay conscious, presses down, feels the pulse stabilize, then slides the scissors into her palm again as a new body drops within reach. Someone shouts for supplies, and she answers while working, says use what is on the floor. She rips more cloth, knots it with practiced speed, braces her forearm against the body to keep pressure, waits a second, releases slowly, confirms the hold, then waves them away and steps forward without looking back. Her breathing grows uneven and her hands tremble, but the motion continues. Cut, press, bind, release. She tells another wounded man to count aloud while she works, listens to the numbers fade, then return. Tightens the knot, adjusts pressure, and signals that he can be moved before turning instantly. A body convulses, and she drops to 1 knee, clamps down with both hands, orders him to stay still while she cuts around her own grip, frees enough cloth, wraps it tight, feels movement, slow exhales, once then rises, using the body beside her to pull herself upright. She loses 1 scissor blade grip and catches it before it falls, switches hands, continues cutting without pause, speaks to a bearer to hold pressure here and not let go, waits for confirmation, releases carefully, then pushes forward to the next injured form already slipping. Her arm locks in pain, but she finishes another bind, checks the result, nods and moves again as the pile thins, the floor clears. And the remaining wounded are stable enough to be carried away, leaving her standing, unsteady, scissors clenched, breathing hard, ready for whoever comes next. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment. It helps a lot. A bandage loosens and blood seeps through as she steps back in, clamps down with her forearm, tightens the knot with her teeth, tells the bearer to lift now while she holds pressure, waits for the lift, checks the pulse, then releases slowly and waves them forward without breaking pace. A wounded man spasms and pulls away. She drops her weight onto the limb, orders him to keep still while cutting around her own hand. Frees a strip, wraps it tight. Listens for his reply, feels the tremor ease, then shifts her knee to block another body sliding in too fast. A tool slips and skids across her palm. She snatches it mid-fall, switches grip, cuts again, speaks to the next man telling him to count aloud as she presses. Hears the numbers stagger, then return, tightens the wrap, tests the hold, and signals for immediate removal. A stretcher strikes her hip, and she stumbles but stays upright. She plants her foot, leans in, applies force, cuts clean, binds fast, tells the bearer to keep pressure and not look away, waits for agreement, releases, then pivots as another body drops within reach. A pulse surges under her fingers and then fades. She presses harder, changes angle, cuts more cloth, reinforces the bind, tells him to breathe now and keep breathing, waits through 2 breaths, feels the beat stabilize, nods once and moves him out with a sharp gesture. A hand grabs her sleeve and she pulls free without stopping. She tells him to let go and hold pressure on himself, tosses him a strip she just cut, watches him comply, then turns back, drops to 1 knee, clamps down, and works through resistance. A shout overlaps orders, and she answers while cutting, says, use what is there and move fast. She finishes the knot, checks the seal releases, carefully guides the transfer with her shoulder, then steps into the next gap before it closes. Her fingers lock, and she shakes them once, then continues. Cut, press, bind. She tells another man to stay awake while she works, waits for his response, tightens again, confirms slowing loss, and clears him through with a quick nod. A body collapses at her feet, and she catches it by the arm, lowers it under control, applies pressure with both hands, cuts one-handed, wraps tight, waits, feels resistance return, then signals for lift and steps aside. The flow steadies as the line shortens. She checks one last bind, reinforces it, releases, and stands back in place, breathing uneven, hands shaking, tools still moving, prepared to repeat the same sequence the moment the next body arrives. A knot gives way under strain, and she lunges forward, catches it before it slips, presses down, with her elbow reties. Using a longer strip, tells the bearer to hold firm while she counts 3 weights through the count, tests the seal, then releases, and motions them through without delay. Her body jerks as pressure shifts, and she drops her weight again, orders him to stay still while cutting around the soaked fabric, pulls it free, wraps tighter, listens for his voice, hears it return, adjusts the bind, and clears the path with a sharp wave. The scissors snag, and she twists her wrist, forces the blades through, cuts clean, speaks close, telling him to keep breathing as she presses, waits for 2 breaths, feels the pulse settle, then slides him out and steps immediately into the next opening. A carrier stumbles and she braces the load with her shoulder, keeps pressure with one hand, cuts with the other, ties fast, tells them to lift together now, waits for the lift, releases slowly, and pivots before the space closes. A man goes slack, and she clamps down hard, changes angle, reinforces the wrap with another strip, orders him to count again, listens until the numbers steady, tightens once more, confirms the hold, and sends him on. Her grip weakens and she swaps hands mid-cut, finishes the tear, binds it back onto itself, tells the bearer not to loosen it, waits for a nod, then steps forward as another body slides within reach. A sudden bleed breaks through and she reacts instantly, presses with both hands, cuts extra cloth, layers it, ties tight, checks the result, exhales once, and moves the man out as soon as the flow slows. The line thins and she scans quickly without pausing, reinforces one bind, replaces another, speaks short commands as she works, confirms each response, and clears them through until only one remains in front of her. The last wounded man trembles and she steadies him, applies pressure, cuts and wraps with the same motion, tells him to breathe and keep breathing, waits until the pulse holds, then signals for removal and steps back. She stands alone, hands shaking, scissors still open, breathing uneven as the sequence ends. Ooh, and the count holds, 14 stabilized by the same motion repeated without stop, leaving no words, no pause, only the result. What did you think? Intriguing, right? Watch the video on your screen, I selected it especially for you. See you there.